Hey guys, it's Rosa here. I hope you're all having a lovely day. Today I'm going to be filming a tutorial for you all about how to make your very own pleated skirt like this one here. This is a midi skirt and I'm making it using a pair of curtains that I found in H&M. So I'm going to be using a pretty unusual way of pleating this fabric, so if you are interested, keep watching. I use pretty much an entire curtain for this project, so you'll need probably a minimum of about 2 meters of fabric if you'd like to make a skirt which is a similar volume to this one. So step number 1 is to measure your waist. It's really important to do this without clothes on, but obviously I was not going to film myself doing that, so here I am measuring my waist. Now I'm just setting out my fabric on the floor, and the first thing I'm doing is cutting off the top of the curtain, but obviously if you're not using a curtain you don't need to do this step. The first piece that I'm going to be cutting out is the waistband. You'll need to cut one waistband piece. I'm going to make mine 8 inches wide. Of course it's going to be folded and it also includes seam allowance. And then I'm going to make the waistband as long as my waist plus either 2 or 3 inches to allow for ease and for you to insert your zip. However much extra you add really depends on how comfortable you want your skirt to be. So if you quite like it really tight, I would just allow for 2 inches of ease, but if you'd like a little bit loose, a little bit more comfortable, maybe go for 2.5 inches or 3. Once I've marked out my 8 inch by my waist plus I went for 2.5 inches of ease rectangle, I'm going to just cut that out. And ta-da, you have a waistband. Once you've cut out your waistband piece, it's time to interface it. So here I am just using my waistband as a pattern piece. And I'm cutting out the interfacing. Take that to your ironing board and just fuse it on. Once you've ironed on your interfacing, you're going to want to press your waistband in half, and on one of the sides turn under the seam allowance, and I'll show a close-up of that here and what it looks like. The next thing you need to do is cut your fabric to the length that you want your skirt to be. So I've just used a tape measure, measured how long it is to the mid of my calf is where I want my skirt to hit, but of course it's up to you how long you want yours to be, and you can cut or rip your fabric to this length. I chose to rip mine. It's probably best to cut, but I was being a bit lazy. Now it's time for the fun bit, which is pleating up your fabric, and I'm going to do this in a bit of an unusual way because I'm going to use a fork. Now this is a trick I saw on the By Hand London Instagram page. They are really worth a follow, they post absolutely lovely things. I'm going to do some close-up shots here because to begin with I was a bit confused by this, but as you can see I'm kind of just pushing the fork onto the fabric and twisting, a bit like when you're like turning spaghetti in a fork. And then when I've got the pleat so it's in line with the one before, and making sure that of course each one is the same size, I'm just putting 2 pins in to secure each pleat. And you're going to keep placing your fabric all the way along until it is exactly the same length as the waistband piece that you cut. The good thing about using the fork is they do end up really, really even, as long as you make sure that you align them up each time with the one previous. And I actually measured mine out because I was a bit dubious as to whether this would actually work, and they really are the same width, so I was really impressed with this trick. Once you've managed to get your pleated skirt piece to the same length as your waistband, you can cut off any excess fabric. Now you've finished with all your pleats, it's time to pin your pleated skirt piece onto your waistband. So I'm just showing how you match that up here. It should be, as you can see, exactly the same length. And we're just going to put pins all the way along the skirt. The more pins the better, really. Once you've pinned your skirt pieces to your waistband, you can go ahead and remove the pins that you put in to secure the pleats, just to make sure you don't run over them with your sewing machine when you come to sewing. And now we are finally at our sewing machine. I'm putting in a brand new needle. You obviously don't need any special needles for this because it's just using a woven fabric. And the first step is to sew straight along that edge, attaching your waistband to your skirt piece. I'm also going to sew in my Handmade by Rosabella label at this point, but obviously that's completely up to you. It just works out well because I can put it on the inside of the waistband. Now's a really good time to give your skirt a good press. Next, it's time to pin in our invisible zipper. I'm aligning it with the fold in the top of the waistband, and then I'm just going to stitch straight down there, folding over the teeth. So the trick to getting a really invisible zipper is to stitch as close to the teeth as possible. And I don't actually have a proper zipper foot, I just use my fingers to roll the teeth away, and then once I finish sewing, the teeth obviously roll back in place. Once you've attached your invisible zipper to one side of the skirt, I like to mark out the waist seam on the other side of the zip. So I do it up like you can see here, and use a pin to mark out where the waist seam will hit on the zip. I then unzip it, pin it onto the other side, and sew it in exactly the same way as I did the first side, and it should, fingers crossed, match up that waist seam. Once you've attached your zip to both sides of the skirt, it should look a little bit like this. Invisible zippers are a bit tricky, so if it doesn't go right the first time, don't worry, just keep practicing and they get so much easier. To keep the top of your zipper really neat and tidy, I'm just going to fold over the top of the waistband, so the flappy bit that's not attached to the zip, fold it over the top of the zip and pin that in place, and just stitch straight down from the bottom of the waistband all the way up to the top. And you can see me sewing that here. Once you've stitched down that line, just clip that corner and turn it the right way round, and it's really neat and tidy. It's all kind of kept inside and you won't have any funny bits of zip like sticking out at the top of your skirt. Now it's time to pin up our side seam. So of course underneath your zip is still not stitched, so I'm just putting some zips in there, some pins in there all the way down that side seam, taking it to my machine and just sewing that up with a straight stitch. Now, as you can see here, we've got some raw edges along that side seam of the skirt that we need to finish off. Now, this is of course completely up to you. You could either use your overlocker, a zigzag stitch. My fabric frayed like crazy, so I decided to finish it with bias tape. So I've just grabbed some here in a sort of matching colour, and I'm just machining that straight down, straight on. This is not the correct way to apply a bias binding, but this is not a bias seam. This is just kind of being used as a seam binding to keep that nice and tidy. as you can see, this is not my straightest stitching that I've ever done, but it does look really neat and tidy, I think, on the inside. At this point, I like to hem my skirt. It's really quick and easy on the sewing machine. I do hem with the machine, of course. Lots of people don't like this, and you might want to hand stitch yours, in which case that's fantastic. I wish I had the patience, but I don't, so I'm just folding mine over. I'm actually using the edge which was already hemmed. I'm just turning it up a little bit more to make it a wider hem. Now the last thing we need to do is finish off our waistband, and this is something which I always do by hand. Personally, I just think you get the nicest finish. So as you can see, I'm just pinning the top of the waistband over the messy waist seam which we've got there, and then once I've got pins all the way along that seam, I'm going to just stitch all the way along using a matching thread, just using a really simple slip stitch, quite small stitches so that they stay really neat and tidy, and I find that's just the best way to finish a waistband. And ta-da! Here is your finished pleated skirt. I really hope this tutorial was helpful and clear, guys. Let me know down below if you make a pleated skirt using this clever fork trick. I absolutely love it. I will definitely be using it again. I like to do a gathered skirt too, but pleats just give it a bit of a smarter look, a little bit smoother, and I love it in these curtains. I will leave a link to these curtains down below if you'd like to get the same fabric as me. I think it's a really good one. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think it also has a really nice volume in a skirt of this size. So that is everything for today. I do hope you have a lovely week, and do make sure you click subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I try to put out sewing vlogs every week. I'll see you again soon. Bye!